If you're a real estate agent and you're tired of cold calling, door knocking, and spending money on ads, then subscribe to this podcast. We discuss leveraging the power of YouTube for your real estate business and how these strategies earned us over $1 million in GCI our first year in real estate. My name is Levi Lascsak and my partner is Travis Plumb. Let's get started.
Well, man, I haven't talked to you on this app or in person for quite some time, so I'm excited to get some updates from you as well. And for those in the room and joining us, hey, Christina, how are you? Molly, see you guys down there. Chris is our guest today that we will be featuring and having a conversation with, and how we like to run these rooms. Chris, just so you have a little rundown, is ultimately I'll usually just kind of go back and forth with you for about 15, 20, 25 minutes, and kind of on a little high level, and then we'll open it up for Q&A on the back end of that. And so that way anybody can jump up here on stage, ask questions. And then also we have a hard stop in 1 hour, so just to be respectful of everybody's time, then that just keeps it short, sweet, to the point, and we hit it off as well. So if anybody would like to ping anybody or invite anybody in, that would be awesome. Always want to get started with as many people as possible, but they usually pack in as the room goes along. So Chris, man, how are you in SoCal today?
Yeah, man, it's actually finally dropped the temperature out here a little bit. Like maybe we'll get snow. I don't know. It hasn't really been winter in forever, like over a year it feels like. But yeah, man, it's nice and chilly out here finally.
Okay, great. Well, real quick, Don, my man, you jumped up here first. You want to briefly introduce yourself and then just pass the mic to Dania and then Brandon, and then I'll get started with Chris.
Yes, sir, for sure. Good morning, everybody. It's Don Kraft. I'm a real estate agent here in Houston, Texas. Loving the YouTube space and loving to pick up the nuggets anytime you guys drop them. And I'll shoot it over to Danya.
Sorry, I think I went to the Matrix for a sec. All the sound dropped out. Hey, everyone. I'm Danya from London, Ontario, Canada. And I have, in the last few months, walked into the YouTube space following Levi's tutelage. And I am completely blown away at the process and the reception that I've had. So I'm very excited with that, and recently just hit my milestone of 100 subscribers, now at 105 today. So growing and looking forward. Today I'm hoping to get out this afternoon and do some more video. So that's what I'm doing, and I'll just let this go over to Brandon.
What's going on, y'all? Levi, thanks for the room. My name is Brandon Jackson. I'm a realtor here in Williamsburg, Virginia. Yeah, I love coming here. I love when you have these rooms because I am so motivated to do video, period, but YouTube. But I'm just, holding myself up. I'm in my own way right now, but 2022 is a great year for me to bust it out. So thank y'all.
Awesome. And please, thank you guys for being here. Please allow me to introduce Chris, my good friend. So Chris, just a heads up, as we kind of mentioned, we tend to have mostly real estate agents in this room, but again, we kind of keep things, I know you can talk business in general, so but it's okay to absolutely reference back to your business. But Chris, one of my favorite YouTubers and just a cool guy, he has the YouTube channel Fly Ride, and where he discusses all things like automotive, lighting, accessories, things like that, and really cool videos. Now, he has about to break 90,000 subscribers, 9.2 million views on his channel, and runs a successful business, not just in automotive lighting, but from YouTube as well. I got the opportunity and the privilege to meet him in person at Vid Summit, where I met so many great creators. But again, what I love about this app is I had spent a lot of time in Chris's rooms. He was very, very present. I think he's been in the basement though recently working on his course and some other stuff, but he's was really present at the beginning of my YouTube journey on here in Clubhouse. Somebody that my ears always turned up whenever he spoke, and just because he's been in the game for so long. I don't know exactly how many years he's had the YouTube channel. We'll kind of let him tell his story there, but he's been in the game. He's been creating content for a long time, and running successful businesses from that. And so, but yeah, I got the opportunity to meet him. Super cool dude in person, just as he is on this app, and just a great wealth of knowledge in general. So Chris, man, happy to have you here. Would you like to kind of did I miss anything? Is there anything you'd like to expand on there as far as I left out?
No, man. I mean, my head's big enough already. You're gonna make it explode. I think the only thing just to kind of touch on that you'd said, I've been in it for a minute. I look back and I actually started this account, the account for my company Flyride, in 2006. So I would caveat that to say that for 10 years I didn't know what YouTube was. I had an account, I was growing it, I was posting stuff to it. I didn't really know why, but I looked down in 2016, had a few thousand subscribers, didn't have any sort of a plan or even understanding of what YouTube really was, and then I heard this term for the first time. Somebody said that, hey, that guy's a really big YouTuber. They were talking about somebody else, and I was like, what's a YouTuber? Is that a thing? So yeah, man. In 2016, like, it doesn't matter that I've had the account since 2006. I didn't even have any clue about what any of this was until I was already pretty far in it. So it just goes to show, like, my journey has really, if I'm honest about it, has really started on YouTube since the end of 2016. So, it's for a lot of people, even if you've been around, just like with Clubhouse and anything else, you can be early, but that doesn't mean that you make progress early unless you're intentional about it. So my intentional journey has really only been the last 5 years. And yeah, it has been a learning lesson every single day since. So happy to dive in, expand on anything in particular, but yeah, I hope that helps.
No, I think that's a great point. And this is, I like this saying, which is, if you treat YouTube like a hobby, it'll pay you like a hobby. If you treat it like a business, it'll pay you like a business. And so I think you mentioned before, you just uploaded videos because you thought it was kind of like Dropbox, like it was a good place to store your videos that you were uploading. And so you're just putting them on there. Maybe you shared them here or there once in a while with a friend or something like that. But it goes to show that a lot of times I think, for myself, I'm 42, and I think a lot of people in that age 40 range and above, we have this kind of love-hate relationship with social media where, we see other people being successful at it, but at the same time, we didn't grow up with it necessarily. So, we kind of fight the fact that, oh, I don't want to be on there all the time. And I think that's looking at it, the viewpoint from a consumer standpoint versus a producer standpoint. And when you actually dig into the platform from a producer standpoint, understanding the back end of it and how everything works and how you can optimize it as a platform to enhance your business, it can absolutely change everything. So when you started to take it seriously in 2016, what were some of the things that you started to look at or look for or start to dig into to help you understand the platform better?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll say this. The first thing that I thought was going to happen was, I saw this other person that, they had a few 100,000 subscribers. They were like gobbling up companies and getting equity from everybody that they did business with. Like, they were just pushing their weight around. It was crazy. I was like, whoa, who is this guy? He's like a wrecking ball. And I'm thinking, hey, well, I guess I can do that. If I have these followers and my videos get these views or whatever, if I point the camera at my face instead of at my work, at, the stuff that I'm creating, if I just pointed at me, like, I could do that same thing too. And it was just this kind of like rude awakening where as soon as I pointed the camera at my face as opposed to cool, shiny lights or cool cars or whatever, it was just crickets. Like it's not automatic. You're not, just because you have followers for one thing, doesn't mean that it carries over into something else. So that was a very interesting moment for me to be like, oh wow, there's like this whole skill set that I don't have yet. I don't understand anything with like the audience and audience retention. Like what is it that's going to keep these people interested to sit and look at my face? Like how long should I be showing my face? Is this boring? Like all of these things for the first time, I had to start thinking about, because it didn't just happen organically by me putting out these videos. I had videos with like 50,000 views showing cool lights. Well, great. But then when you show me talking about, I'm going to go to the SEMA show, or I'm going to go, work on a Lamborghini or something like that. Like, even if I think that's interesting, that doesn't mean that somebody watching that video is going to choose that over all of the other things that are a click away, just looking at them, begging them to do something more interesting in that moment. So that was kind of a nice smack in the face for me. I was like, oh, got it. I'm kind of boring. I need to get better at this. I need to get a lot more practice at this before I can have any expectations. And that's kind of where I'm leading this point to right now, is just because you start something does not mean that you really have a grasp on what the expectations should be, which means just play, just learn, and set the expectations to the side for a while until you get kind of the ropes and you start understanding like, okay, this works, this doesn't work. This was fun. This was terrible. And I was uncomfortable and I hated it and I don't want to do it again. Like whatever those things are, you can't really map that out until you've actually, you dive in a little bit. You stop trying to be a perfectionist and never actually start. And it's just kind of one of those things that you learn trial by fire. And it doesn't kill you if it doesn't, make you some internet superstar overnight. You just kind of hear crickets like I did.
So that's a great thing you mentioned as far as getting, okay, so you said you're not interesting, which I beg to differ, or at least you are definitely now. But how did you get over that as far as, the self-awareness or looking at it? I mean, is this something that you're kind of prone to do, is always critique yourself anyways? Or how did you first make that transition onto camera and get over that? I think a lot of people in here as well, that's one of the things that is always brought up, is they're getting comfortable on the camera. So what was kind of like that for you in the beginning?
Cool question. Yeah, so like right off the bat, the first thing that I did was I set up my my phone, and I came out and I started trying to like write out scripts and say them to the camera and deliver everything. And I was like, this is terrible. What me as, Levi, and anybody here, I'm always the same guy on camera, in person. Like it's just me, and I've embraced that I can be one person, be authentic all the time, and not have to like quote unquote try. And if that works out and people like me, cool. It pulls in the right people. And if it pushes people away, good news. I'm this way. So if you don't like me on Clubhouse, or you don't like me on YouTube or whatever, like we're clear on this. You're not for me. I'm not for you. And that's good. That's being polarizing, at least in some way, by being authentic, just makes everything kind of make sense. So when I got that camera and I was trying to read these scripts, I was not me. I was not good. I was frustrated because I couldn't remember my lines. I was like, I was like trying to be an actor or something and know everything that I would say. Man, I like to shoot from the hip a little bit and just kind of be in the moment if I'm speaking or something like that, and still, kind of try to be able to land the plane and bring it back home. But when I was doing those recordings, I was looking at it and was like, that's not me. Like, that's weird. And it didn't feel right. It felt stiff. Things being scripted, man, some people, they can just crush it with that teleprompter. Not me. Like I don't want to sit and read a script. So I had to learn on the fly, and a lot of other people have, I've heard this advice too. You just make it easier on yourself. You make like a bullet list. If I just have to know that I should be able to hit these 5 different topics, and that, that'll be enough. I just have to talk about those 5 things. Maybe I talk about one of those things for a minute and I'm recording myself talking about it, just riffing, right? Then I stop and then I read the next bullet point and then I record for a minute again, just talking about the next thing. And by the time I'm done, I've got like a 6-7 minute succinct video. If I ramble on at one of those points for too long, I can kind of trim some of that stuff out. But when I squish them all together and I have that nice chopped out, no fluff, no extra, I might have 5 strong points in a quick video that's easy to consume. And I didn't have to do it in one shot. I didn't have to like breath management, like on Clubhouse. You start talking too long, all of a sudden you're like, oh, man, like I'm like, I've been holding my breath while I was talking the whole time. That was weird. Like all of those weird things go away. There's actually no pressure. And something that I've learned much more over the years is that if you're filming yourself talking about something and you mess up, you can literally in that moment not stop recording, not change everything else, just take a deep breath and then say the thing again. It's so easy. And then if you'd say it perfect, cool, move on to the next thing. If you mess up again, take another deep breath and just say the thing. And when you're done, when you're editing, nobody's going to know. Nobody gets to see any of that. They just think that you're some master that gets it all in the first shot, even if it took you 5 tries per bullet point. The pressure does not have to be there. So I put all the pressure on myself at the beginning, and that's why it was super hard. And then, 5 years later, it's just kind of, it might look easy, but it still just requires just having some sort of a thought process and knowing that it's okay to mess up. And if you do, then you just take a deep breath and try again. So I think that's a big unlock for a lot of people, that they think that the people they're seeing are just one-shotting everything like masters. And they're not. They're usually not.
Great points. And I want to go back to something you said in the beginning. And I think this is really important and relevant to real estate agents in particular, because we, as an audience on YouTube, have the opportunity, or our audience, to meet our audience. I mean, this is actually what we're striving for. That's the whole point of doing this type of content, is because we want to work with our audience. We want them to call us, and then we're going to meet them in person. So just like Chris said, that is probably one of the most important things, is to make sure that you are yourself in your videos, because guess what? These people, if they come across country or come from out of town or out of state or even from down the road, they're expecting to pretty much meet that person that they see on camera. And if you're completely different, well, that could completely throw them off. But also at the same time, what I love about YouTube is, just like Chris said, I mean, he's attracting the audience that likes him. That's the same thing. What we've noticed with our clients that we attract through YouTube is that they're pretty much just like us, right? Like attracts like. Most people's are attracted to people that have very similar personalities as them. And so our clients coming in are, even though we don't talk about religion or politics or anything like that, those in the background tend to line up as well. You can kind of just get this sense. But as far as easygoing, like to have a good time, joke around, take our business seriously, but also like to have fun at the same time, that's the way our clients have been. And so we haven't had to deal with really any nightmare clients, and we hear the stories all the time. So it's a great opportunity to really be yourself, and that's very important, to be yourself, because because if you're this character, just like Chris mentioned, you're going to attract characters, and then that could probably be a conflict for yourself, because then you're working with people that are not really like yourself, and that can make things difficult. But ultimately, also, Chris is exactly right too. What I like to, people say all the time, I can't make a 15-minute video. Well, the reality is that my 15-minute videos is 5 bullet points that I talk about for about 2 to 3 minutes. And when that gets all added together, then that's a 15-minute video. I don't try to make a 15-minute video in one take. It's like, okay, what can I talk about for 2 to 3 minutes? And the other great thing you mentioned about teleprompting, and I've never used that, because hopefully, especially in real estate, we should know our areas. We should know our city. We should know our town. We should know our suburbs. We should know our neighborhoods because we live there. And ultimately, that's what people are looking for is our experience, our stories. What do we like? What do we don't like about those areas? And so if you're speaking from the heart and speaking from your experience, that should be able to, now it's different to do it on camera. You do have to practice that, but ultimately you just want to talk as if you're talking to a friend on camera and have that conversation. You're just having that conversation with the camera instead. So all great points on there, Chris. So let me ask you this. So for a lot of people on here, they're starting out. Oh, hey, Justin, thanks for joining. And a lot of people are starting out right now. If you could dial it back, from the start, and starting, let's say you're starting a brand new channel right now, what are a couple of key things that you would say are really key for someone just getting started on the platform that you would want them to be mindful of?
Cool, for sure. Well, I actually am starting a new channel right now, so I'll just tell you what I'm going to do. But first, I just got to say what's up to my boy Justin. Man, I got all these good-looking dudes on the stage that are super smart real estate monsters. Happy to be here. All right, so I'm going to be, and we also have Danya, so I don't want to exclude her from the super good-looking dude crowd that we got. But starting this new channel, this is the thing. I think that if you're going to make content about anything, it's so hard to look at it from the consumer's or, the watcher's shoes. You're looking at it like, oh, I want to say this and I want to say that. Me, I. All of these things are from your own lens. And what if it's not, what if it's not something that's going to hold somebody's attention? So if you can, try to think about everything as like, how is this piece of information going to come across as, as interesting? Like, what value is this person going to get out of listening to me yap at them for the next few minutes? Or from my guest, maybe the guest that you're going to bring on, you have a guest on like a podcast or a YouTube channel, whatever. Maybe that's going to be like, they're really dry and boring. Like, you're going to have to think about all these things that, if they are, or if you are, there's going to have to be something that spruces it up. And what that looks like a lot of times might be good information, good audio, but it might need to be a little bit more visually stimulating. So if you're going to be talking about a home and you're just sitting there as a talking head video, you're probably going to want to show that home. Don't make them just use their imagination and look at your face. If you can throw in a still image of a home or some cool B-roll of you walking around that place or whatever it is, you want to be able to keep things stimulating for the person watching, regardless of what you're talking about. Because if they're sitting and watching the same frame for, let's say, like 5 to 10 seconds, like that's already longer than almost any video frame that they're seeing, like one shot. Anytime they watch TV, anytime they watch YouTube, a movie, especially a commercial, usually the cuts are so fast. They're so like every couple of seconds, things change up. So it keeps giving that person's brain something to kind of like stay interested, stay in that moment. And if you stay in that one shot for too long, even if you're saying the most amazing thing ever, the super, most helpful thing ever, a lot of times it's just not stimulating enough to keep people there. So my strategy with the new channel that I'm working on right now is I'm going to be talking a lot with these super smart Web3, NFT, like all that whole side of things. Like, I'm learning that. I feel like it's so damn boring. I can barely stand listening to too much of it from one person for very long, because they just go into this monotone, like robot explanation. And I'm like, I'm not a robot. Like, I don't get this, that same way that they do. And so my goal with that is to just be an interpreter and to ask questions like a normal person would want to ask. And when the person answers, then if I can interpret that, if I can like get it, and I just reiterate that in bite-sized little chunks that your average person can pick up, then that exchange between me and the other person could really be helpful to your average guy who doesn't understand things, maybe even like I do. Maybe they need a little bit more, simple than that. So to put this in the lens of, real estate, if you're talking about things that have a bunch of acronyms, probably don't use those acronyms. You know what I mean? Unless you're talking in a room full, like I was sitting at a table full of real estate guys at Summit, and they were all talking about a bunch of stuff I had no clue about. You know, I understood that I like to have a couple beers and hang out. That part I was there for, but everything else, they were kind of speaking their own language. Don't do that. Not in your videos. Do it with your friends over drinks or whatever. But if you're going to be making content, make it bite-sized and consumable. And by all means, don't make it boring. You know, like just, even if the content is good, just change up the visual while you're giving all that little value in bite-sized chunks, you know, so that it's not completely overwhelming and that you don't lose your audience. Because if you're being so smart, sure, they're gonna get that. They're gonna be like, yeah, this person's really smart. Guess what? I feel the same way about these NFT people, but they're boring, so that doesn't help them. I want to learn from them, but I'm like, I had a great Algebra 2 teacher. He was super good at math. I slept through that class every day. I sat next to all the cute girls and everything. I just couldn't stay awake. It wasn't stimulating. I was out. So that teacher didn't do a good job, as smart as he was. And I think that if you know your space, you can help a lot of people giving all those gems that you have in you. Just make sure that you dress them in something that's visually stimulating and that's consumable, and just explain what all those acronyms are instead of just trying to blow right past everything and kind of spoon feed the people, because you're literally there for them. It's not about you. You're just trying to serve. And sometimes getting in your own way is the like, oh, well, how do I look? How do I sound? Like, do I sound smart enough? Like, don't worry about sounding smart enough. Just help somebody, help them understand. So I could go on for days, which is weird because this is actually just me chatting, and Levi, you might have to hop in and stop me sometimes, but I do hope that that's at least a decent starting point to go by.
No, that's that's great. That's something that that I've learned, especially coming into Clubhouse and studying YouTube, is that we can learn something from every creator, and so Chris, being an automotive lighting channel, is not the first channel I would have ever searched. Probably would have never searched that on YouTube. But now that I know Chris, and also now that I'm very deep in my journey on YouTube, I look at his channel from a content creation standpoint, just like he mentioned. So he mentioned when you're watching a TV show, and this is the other things, guys, you really want to start picking up on as you dive in more into your journey as a producer versus a consumer, as a content creator versus a content consumer, is where you can get inspiration and where you can learn from. If you watch one of Chris's videos, what he's talking about, he has a lot of angle changes, zoom in, zoom out. Sometimes it's a fun ride. It's a fly ride. That's what you could say. It's a fly ride, even watching his videos. For him to explain something like automotive lighting or accessories or things like that, there's a lot of camera changes. We've had Roger Wakefield in here, who's a plumber, right? And so most of us would say that plumbing is not necessarily an interesting subject, but if you watch his videos, he's doing camera angle and camera changes every 3 to 5 seconds, just like Chris mentioned. If you watch Fix or Flop or $1 Million Listing or whatever, Selling Sunset, these real estate shows, you'll notice now, if you haven't noticed before, you'll notice the camera angle and the shot changes every 3 to 5 seconds. I mean, even if it's the same person talking, they'll usually cut to a different angle of that person talking. And they're doing that because it is constant motion, throughout that whole thing. It's the same thing, like I think Christina was in here earlier, Christina Smallhorn. She talks about, you're sitting in the checkout line of the grocery store and you look at magazine articles. Those are thumbnails in itself, but also look at the headlines, what descriptions, the placement of the people on there, their faces, the wording, how it's positioned. You look at billboards. Billboards are thumbnails. Netflix, you go on Netflix, everything on Netflix is a thumbnail. You're actually looking on that. So you start looking at Netflix as, oh, why did they pick that one? And you'll notice sometimes they change them, right? So maybe even Netflix is doing A/B testing with their thumbnails for their TV shows. So all of that starts to help garner inspiration. You start picking these things up and start watching shows differently. And I watch real estate shows completely differently now, because it's like, okay, how do we, how can we kind of make it look like that? It's kind of where we deemed inspiration from the luxury channels, from $1 Million Listing. It's like, notice how from the intro, after the intro, it almost always starts out with, cool music and B-roll and drone shots and things like that. It's like, okay, well, let's incorporate that into our videos. So, again, and it's going to be our style and what we're doing. So that's where you deem that inspiration. So, all right, let's jump into Q&A real quick as well. We got some people up here on stage. Don, do you have any questions, comments, or any contribution that you'd like to throw in here, my man? You're first up.
Yes, sir. So what I wanted to ask Chris, I know Chris, you mentioned that you started your channel in 2006 and you really started focusing in 2016. So I had a couple calls come in, so forgive me if I missed you when you said that. When you really got intentional about YouTube, how many videos would you say you were producing, maybe on a weekly basis or a monthly basis? And from 2006 to 2016, when you really got intentional, did you see your subscriber count increase? If you can touch on that for me.
Yeah, like I think as soon as I realized, oh, this is a completely different ball game. Like, I actually have to be good, and I actually have to practice, and kind of put out a bunch more videos. I think it was just as though I had started a new channel. So I would just look at my progress from that point. I think it probably took me from the time that I realized that there was this opportunity until I had not even doubled my subscriber rate, like maybe like over a year. I was not putting out weekly videos. It wasn't like a switch was flipped on. It was more just this awakening when I was like, oh, I suck. Got it. I didn't realize that. So I didn't understand producing the videos. I didn't understand thumbnails. Like, I'd been making videos on YouTube for so long, even though I didn't really have any strategy behind it. When I was posting them up, you couldn't even change the thumbnails. Like back in the day, you'd upload a video and it just randomly grabbed a still, and that was your thumbnail. In 2012, they introduced being able to actually choose your own thumbnails. So it's not like in 2016, all of a sudden I was like, all right, I'm going to go hard. And I started doing weekly videos and dope thumbnails and all that. Like, I still didn't know what I was doing. It's just that my subject matter had changed from cool, interesting, lights and little pan shots and stuff like that. Like, if you're showing your face, you can't just hold the camera out and do a slow pan. That'd be so weird watching somebody like try to selfie, like B-roll their face. But I was just barely getting a couple of them out here and there. I did a big project where we literally moved into a shop with another company, and me and the guy that was working for me at the time, we went in there thinking like, all right, we're going to do this big YouTube thing. We're going to do this big thing. And the reality was I just kind of tucked in under their shadow and just didn't really do my own thing very much. I just slowly would eke out a video here and there. But it was not me being really, really intentional. It was just I broke the rust off the gears, if you will, and slowly started turning them. And it wasn't until 2018 when I went to Vid Summit for the first time that I was like, oh my gosh, like this has actually got some potential. And at that point, I had grown the channel by about 10,000 subscribers. So it took years, to get to that point where I think I was at like 6,000 subscribers before 2016. And then after that, just to reach, like 16,000 or something, I think it took at least 2 years. And lots of money and learning and dedication and watching channels and, watching all the live streams, the vidIQs and all these different companies that are out there. I had invested an insane amount of hours at that point. So the growth was not what was keeping me going. It wasn't like, hey, this is working and that's why I'm going to keep doing it. It was much more that I was just fascinated in the process of it. So I would, again, I mentioned expectations earlier. I wouldn't attach a number to like are you doing well? Because you might be doing insanely well with what you're learning, but that might not be reflected in the amount of like subscribers or views that you're getting. I think finding a system and finding things that work and testing things like that are a little bit better gauge for how much you're growing. Because if it's becoming more sustainable and more fun and you're getting it and you're learning and studying other things, all of that is a great use of time that doesn't necessarily reflect in like X amount of subscribers per month or something like that. So and the other great thing is for you guys, real estate. I remember one time I did a video and it was kind of a flop in terms of views. I think I tried hard. I was, spent a bunch of time editing all that. And I put it out and it got like 200 views. And I was like, oh well, swing and a miss, right? But then I got a giant order out of it, $10,000 of headlight work. And it didn't matter that 200 views was less than I was wanting, but one of those 200 views was the right person. And for you guys, that's the difference between selling a home. Like that's huge. So I think it definitely matters much less about the amount, but more the quality of the people that are watching your content. And expectations, yeah, I think it should just be attached to the whole experience as opposed to just like one metric. So I hope that helps.
Does that complete you, Don?
Yes, sir. I appreciate that, Chris. Thanks, Levi.
Yeah, man. And I'll just say on the back end of that, the more content you create, the more opportunity for more eyeballs, right? And the more eyeballs, the more opportunity for more homes. And so, but I think consistency is really important. So you don't want to, overpromise yourself and underdeliver. The old saying, right? I think you should, produce the amount of content you're comfortable with on a weekly basis, and then stay as consistent as possible and focus on your consistency more than quantity. And so and also quality. Consistency and quality I feel is really by far the best. So all right, Dania, how are you doing today? If you could, please share your recent success. I know you said you just broke 100 subscribers, but also I know you're starting to turn over some business, which just goes back onto Chris's point here that you don't need 1,000 or 100,000 subscribers to turn over some business. So could you share a little bit about your recent success? And then also, do you have a question or comment you'd like to throw out?
Hey, yes, Levi. Thank you so much. Chris, thank you so much for joining us here today. It's been awesome. So yes, I started my YouTube channel at the end of August, inspired by Levi and just wanting to get out there and be very different than a lot of the other agents in my area. Sorry, Justin, doing things a little different than you. Justin and I share the same marketplace, but so I decided to get going on this, and I think I had about 50 subscribers when all of a sudden one day I opened my email and it was like, "Hey, we just watched your YouTube video on London, and we love it, and we're moving to Canada, and we would love to work with you, and we're going to be there in 2 weeks, and we want to meet you." So that was my first one. We've had a couple of other ones since then. More so, I'm seeing a little bit of frustration having just international students that want to rent rooms that I can't really help them with right now with my connections. So trying to find ways to do that. But that's some of the success that I've been seeing. But I think I wanted to kind of circle back to the teleprompter impromptu conversation. I'm the perfectionist that has tried to keep things to a minimal because I'm doing it all myself. And I have been using a teleprompter app where I do use things. I seem to be fairly okay with that. But I did try my last video without the teleprompter, and I found a couple of things. First of all, working with my cell phone, the teleprompter kept my eyes in the right place. And secondly, it kept me from repeating words that were probably not the most appropriate words, not appropriate, but the best use of words um, in a certain statement, right? So I think that I have that takes practice, and I would love to hear any tips that you guys have on that about bullet points, because I would love to go there more where I can just kind of talk, because the teleprompter does limit you if you decide you wanted to talk about something else because the words are still scrolling. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about that. But I do have one question for you, Chris. When you talk about angles and moving when your cameras, I'm the sole person doing all of my stuff. And sometimes when I'm editing, I'll bring the camera closer, but I find that I'm out in the I'm out on location doing a lot of my filming. And is that okay to have as, say, a camera change or a change of scenery in regards to an angle where I'm not really able to change the angle of the recording?
Yeah. Okay. So I actually, this is cool because I worked with somebody over the summer that I think was exactly where you're at. And I saw something great that worked for her. And then to the question of the camera angles, like, listen, if you're just doing a talking head video and you were also out on location somewhere, just every time you see cool stuff, just try to start, and this is for everybody, like when you start seeing cool things out and about, it doesn't matter if you're trying to sell that home or not. Just if you see something that you think is cool, pull out your phone. It's a supercomputer and it's got a dope camera on it, and you just get some shots of it. Just some, like, try to move slow and consistent with, you know, with your phone, and try to get some interesting video and just capture it and then forget about it. And then later, if you're sitting there working on a video, you know, just for practice, even just drop some of that footage in over the top of the track that shows you talking, and make that be, you know, you can just make it to, that's the visual. To be a little bit technical, there's usually going to be audio when you film anything, right? So if you take, if you're out on location or you're with a client, you're wherever, or there's a crowd in the background making noise, when you put that footage over your talking head video, obviously it's going to now have two different audio sources. So you just drop the audio to 0 on the location that you were at, and just keep the audio from you talking right there. And it gives you this new layer that adds some context to whatever it is that you're talking about. So if you're mentioning that something has really cool counters and you were at that place, when you see those counters, here's a tip: every time you're somewhere, film the counters, because you might end up talking about them later. You know, if it has some special, you know, finish on the walls and Venetian plaster and blah, 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 like, cool, shoot that, like, get up close and get these different, interesting little pieces of video, so that later, if you're talking about that house, that location, you've just got these little bits of ammunition that you can sprinkle in on top of you talking about it. Because if you're going to say that there was some amazing, you know, like stair railing or something like that, and all this, you know, iron work and blah, 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 like, why shouldn't the person be looking at it while you're talking it up? So that's just one way that you can, you know, while you're out on these different places, you don't have to all of a sudden be like full production studio camera crew. You mentioned you're doing this stuff yourself, Dania. Good. Me too. Right. And I'm damn good at it. And James Dunn just joined the room, and he's good at it too. What's up, James? But when you're getting that stuff, it's because you're playing the role of the producer and the editor and the shooter. It's Sean Cannell calls this a shredditor. And I think that's a pretty cool term, because you are doing it all yourself, but you're just thinking as you're going about your day, you're doing one of those, wearing one of those hats in that moment. You shoot that little B-roll footage. And then later, when you're sitting there and you're filming yourself talking about it, and you've kind of made those bullet points, now you just know that as you're talking about that one key aspect, that stair railing or those countertops or whatever, you also know that you have that footage there. You know, like, you can literally bullet point out your video while you're on location by just, what are the highlights? What are the things that jump out at you at that location, and film them. And then you can even use something that's free, like Google Keep. That's one of my favorite apps to use. It's free from, you know, Google G Suite stuff. Google Keep is basically like a note-taking app, but you can click a button and it turns all of the notes that you've put on there into checkboxes. And so now you can go through and you'd be like, oh yeah, that's right, I filmed that stair railing, and I know that because in Google Keep, it's got that with an empty checkbox next to it, but I haven't talked about that in my video. and then you talk about it in your video, and then you check the box. It's just, I don't know, it feels good. It's just a nice workflow. As a single person doing all of the work as a shredder, you can kind of keep track of what you should be talking about in that video based on what stood out to you while you were there. So that's one way that you can make your videos much better, and use bullet points and all of that stuff. The other thing on the being a perfectionist and just wanting to make sure that you get everything right and using the teleprompter, what I would suggest to you is do the teleprompter, talk about something in detail, right? And then I want you to do like a short little five-point list of something that has nothing to do with the topic at hand, just something that you're super into that you could talk about anyway, with friends, with whoever, and it's something that you're passionate about, and literally try to bullet point out a couple of those things and record yourself just talking about them. Not that you're ever going to use this or show anybody this, but just riff, and just, you can look off to the side, you can look right into the camera lens. That's always a good thing to practice, like looking into the lens or knowing where the camera's at on a phone. It's super important to just look right at that, because then you're looking right at the viewer, which connects with them. But just riff on those things, just, kind of ad lib, talk about them, whatever. And then watch those two videos back side by side and look at what are the pros and the cons of each, because my guess is that you're going to see more of yourself when you're just talking about the thing that you're passionate about, and you're going to see more of the like curated, I guess I could just say like less authentic, normal self. One of those two people that you're looking at, your friends and family are going to recognize. The other one is going to be the like professional you. I think there's a blend, because this is real estate. It's not just, talking about cars or makeup or whatever. Like, people want you to be professional, but they also want you to be human. So I think you could find a blend of those two different things, and you're not going to be able to see the kind of laid back, more natural you if the only time you're looking at yourself on video, you're talking business and you're talking professional stuff. That was a whole bunch. I do hope it helped.
That was awesome. Yes, and that's somewhere I want to get to do. I'm going to do that right away, because I do agree with you that when you're able to just talk and be yourself, you when you're trying to be a perfectionist, or when you are a perfectionist, sorry, you're looking at things and you want everything to be seamless and flow, but you take out a lot of the personality, and that's the part that I want to walk away from, is that, and walk into being my personality, being that much more on the camera for my people to see. So I thank you so much for all that, Chris. That was a lot, but it was great. And what was that? Google what, or
Keep.
Keep. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm gonna go
Google
look.
Keep. Yep.
Okay, thanks so much.
Dania, I want to layer one more thing on top of that for Chris, because everything he just said, it really is the unproduced content that connects people, right? And when we happen to be in the same city, I don't consider you a competitor. I consider you a friend. And Levi and I talked about this last week in this room, where there's so much business to go around. The people that like me aren't necessarily going to like you. The people like you aren't necessarily going to like me. And that's okay, because we're going to find our people. But I can tell you, like, as a friend, that I have the production crew that does a lot of our like listing videos and stuff like that. I'm shooting a neighborhood video today, and I decided to do the whole thing on my GoPro Hero 10 because I was watching Mr. Beast's editor talk about how, like, a lot of times you don't want the crazy, beautiful DSLR that doesn't make you feel like you're talking to a normal person. I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'll just do the whole thing on a Hero 10. I'll have the microphone set up so the audio is nice and clear. And then the framing of the video, like when I built it out, and Levi knows this, right? Like I'm very just thoughtful about the structure of it and the bullet points. And then this time I wasted half a day doing one a couple weeks ago. And I realized on this one, simplify like where I'm shooting and what I'm going to be shooting, put it in order so I'm just not wasting a lot of my time, and then capture the B-roll. And then the edit will be a lot cleaner. But like Sean Cannell does say, like, you just press record, right? And then you make it a little bit better. But you have a great personality. I think I would get away from the teleprompter and I'd start trying to get more comfortable with bullet points. And the good thing about filming is it's not film, it's digital. So you can do 9 takes if it takes 9 takes, right? Like, just get more comfortable being you, and I think it'll translate even better.
Thanks, Justin. No, I never consider you as a competitor, and you are a great friend. So appreciate that. And thank you guys all so much.
Great. Yeah, great conversation. And just to add to that real quickly, I still use my iPhone 11 Pro that has the 3 cameras, wide angle on it. I still use that to this day for my shooting. And when I'm out in neighborhoods, he's on the phone now, but what helps me on camera changes, that's why if you watch any of my videos out in the neighborhoods or outside, I'm always walking. I stay walking and I switch my hands a lot. So that changes the camera angle. So basically I'm doing natural angle adjustments and camera changes without any editing needed really whatsoever, because I'm constantly walking. I don't ever stop in front of a house and just stand there. I usually just walk right by it. In that way, and then I switch hands and I show homes across the street and down the street and what's around me and all of that. So just like Chris was saying, you can also take slow roll, B-roll on top of that, but also that's just one of my hacks to get through very quickly and not need to add a bunch of that stuff later whenever I'm outside. I do it though. I do exactly what Chris said, but also stay walking, keep moving, shift your arm or your hand because it changes the angles, but also my arm gets tired holding the camera, right? So it also gives me one arm a rest for a little while. So that's just something that helps me out. So you want to say
So
something?
yeah, I was just gonna say just something I picked up on. You said you were on your iPhone 11 on wide angle.
Yes.
So why the wide angle?
Just because I never have to worry about myself being in the shot. So I don't film myself where I can see myself in the camera. I film using, the actual camera, and the wide angle captures so much behind me. And so, that's the thing, is I never have to worry about what's in the frame because I know pretty much absolutely everything behind me is in the frame because it captures such a great amount, and it makes me, my face doesn't take up the whole screen or 2/3 of the screen. I actually look like I'm standing back, but you can see an entire house behind me, or 2 or 3 houses sometimes, depending on how far out I'm standing, and they're as clear as day. So that for me is just more important because I'm thinking about the viewer, just like Chris mentioned as well. I'm always thinking about what can they see, what are they looking at, even though I'm the central character, so to speak. Really the main character is the real estate, so I want them to be able to see that, and I want that to be a little more of the focus. So the wide angle allows me to use a short little tripod that I have, which is really about 1 foot long, and that's about it. And I just hold it out. It's a natural arm position for me. I'm able to move around. It's very compact, easy to travel with, easy to use. It just makes everything very simple.
That's awesome. And I think too, you wouldn't be looking distracted by what's on the screen if you're just looking at the
Well,
cameras.
yeah,
Awesome.
and that is really a main point as well, is because my three cameras on my iPhone to me look like Mickey Mouse. It looks like 2 ears and a face. God, and so I'm having a conversation with my phone. Really, my phone is my friend, and so it's almost like I'm walking beside my friend on the sidewalk, and I'm just explaining to them what they're seeing. If I had a friend visiting from out of state and they don't know anything, that's what I pretend, that's what I just tell myself in my head, is that they're right there. But the thing is, I'm just looking at my phone, so my phone is a little face, a little person to me, that I'm explaining this area to them. And that's why I believe what helps me is because I'm just able to have a conversation with my camera, but ultimately that's translating into a conversation with the viewer. And that's why I believe so many people feel that connection, because I'm looking dead at that camera, which is making eye contact with that viewer. And that's what also helps keep people connected. So let's move on to Brandon real quick. You got a question for my man, Chris? What's up, James? Good to see you as well, man. Glad you joined the room.
Yeah, I'll be brief. I appreciate you for doing this, Chris. My question is, so I'm a newer agent, and I'm very new to YouTube. I only have, I think, one video right now, but I'm working. Um, so like I was saying earlier, I get in my own way, trying to be a perfectionist, and it's crazy to say because I don't see how I'm trying to be so perfect at something that I've never even done. You know what I mean? But my thing is being perfect. Like I have my phone right now. I have so many shots of the same video. Like I could scroll down for days, and it's just the one shot. And you said something earlier, like that I don't even think about when I'm shooting, because once I mess up on a word or stumble or something like that, I stop the camera. But you said earlier, just keep going, and you can edit it later. So, did you do anything special when you first started to get yourself rolling as far as talking on camera and being in front of camera? Because if you're like me, I cannot stand cameras. I can't stand being filmed, but I can talk about, like you said, I can talk about stuff that I'm interested in or stuff that I'm passionate about all day long.
Yeah, man. Well, listen, you're normal. I'm not. I'm a weirdo. I swear to God, I want to hold a microphone and talk to 10,000 people in person. Like it's just, I'm wired different. But I will say I understand, and almost everybody has that same feeling of like, you know, I'm going to stand here and talk to this thing, and like, who am I? Like, what if I mess up? Like I need to start over, like all this overthinking, and that's okay, because that's almost everybody, you know, the whole fear of public speaking, like that's just means that you're human, which is good. It's also something that I didn't come up with this, take a deep breath and start over. I learned that from somebody who was visiting my shop that was just really, really good on YouTube. He's just had a huge channel. He's one of the guys that I was building some lights for. He told me two things that changed the whole game for me, and this was back in 2018. He said, number one, and he didn't really like take time to go out of his way. I just kind of picked these things up. He was like, how come your camera's not in automatic? Like, you know, the white balance and all these settings. He's like, I don't mess with that. I just put my camera in automatic. He didn't overthink it. He wasn't being like fancy. He just had it in auto. Wow, that changed the game for me. The other thing was I was just watching him do his thing, and I'd watch him go to say something. He'd fumble a word, and he would just literally take a breath and then say that same exact sentence again, like without skipping a beat. It was just there. Like every time I saw him repeat himself, I knew he was editing in his mind real time. I was like, damn, that just saved him so much time and resetting. You can get in the zone. Sometimes when I'm filming now, I'll just be saying so many words. I don't even know what I'm saying until I go watch it back later, because I'm like totally in the zone. And then like if I mess up in that, I'll just like literally have to stop and be like, damn, like where am I? You know, like, well, what just happened? What did I even just say? Where do I pick back up? So saying things in short little like spurts, like little nuggets of information, and then taking a minute to breathe, like that's actually way faster, because you assemble all of these good takes over the course of time, and then you just chop out everything that was, you know, that was in between, all the mess ups, everything else, and all you're left with is a whole bunch of little, you know, 5 to 10 second little, you know, well executed sentences, and you chop that up and you put it together. It's when you're overthinking it and you're completely like defeated because you were doing good on, you know, like 12 sentences of your script, and then on sentence 13 you mess up and you're like, damn, I got to start the video game over. Like that's why they changed video games, because it was so damn aggravating back on Nintendo back in the day. You'd throw the damn controller because you're like, damn it, I lost the level. I got to start the whole game over. Like that's why we have save points in video games these days. So when you're taking those deep breaths, you execute that sentence well, and you want to just roll right into the next one, still take a breath, because when you edit, you can actually see the audio. You can see where you're talking and where you're not talking. It saves so much time to just go right to the end of where you're talking, chop that part, and then look forward to where you can see the audio of you starting to talk again, and you chop it right there, and you squish those things together, and you've got this thing that looked like you just blew it all out in one take. But you didn't. You did it in like, you know, 65 little takes, and you only used maybe like 20 of those. And the other 40 plus were just mess ups, and you just sweep them to the side and you're done. So, yeah, that will help a lot in just being able to film and edit.
Hey,
Appreciate you for that.
Brandon, I just wanted to add on to something there. I mean, Chris absolutely nailed it with that. And by the way, it's a while since I've spoken to you guys. So Chris, Justin, Levi, everyone else, good to see you. But if you're listening to what Chris just said there, you may picture what the video might end up looking like. And I know that I'm only saying this because I know that you're new to the YouTube game, and for those who have been video creators for a while, this is obvious. But if you picture that kind of chopped up end result, where you've got all the good versions put together on a timeline, it might, in your mind, look like you've got lots of jump cuts. But if you think about it, what you can do is cover those jump cuts with B-roll footage. So all that footage you've got on your phone or whatever you're filming with, of things that help make the point that you're saying, you know what? Those cover up those awkward cuts really nicely, and you won't even know. And it'll end up looking like you've just done a one-take wonder. It's perfect, and you've nailed it first time.
I got Levi in the background.
Yeah,
That's where he was stuck on.
Yeah. Hey, yeah. Good to hear you, James, man. Yeah. Thanks for joining as well. So Brandon, does that help out? Does that make you complete?
Yeah, for sure. I'm gonna just take me 2 shots and turn the camera on.
2 basketball shots or 2 tequila shots?
2 tequila shots. You know that.
All right. Cool. All right. Well, Justin, looks like Justin's on the phone there. My man, James, how you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm really good, my man. Really good. How are you?
I'm doing well, sir. Doing well. We're Chris is our guest speaker today. So, do you have any questions for Chris you would like to throw out there?
He wants to know how I can make him sound like a super sexy British voice man. I don't have any tips for you, James. You're on your own.
Oh, man, I need help. No, just wanted to say hello. I know nothing about real estate, but I know a reasonable amount about YouTube. So I know, Chris, this is your stage, but where I can chip in, if you're happy to have me, I'm happy to sit here.
Dude, I'm happy to see you and hear you, James. It's been a minute, so definitely gotta fire up some more of these rooms, like the golden days of Clubhouse. So good. So I'm just happy to see you, brother.
Cool. Well, let's bounce down to is it Hossein? I think Hossein. Is that how you say your name? I'm not sure.
Yes, it's Hossein, but you can say Haas.
Okay. All right. I like Haas. Oh, Justin, we'll come back to you. I'm sorry, man. You're on the phone. So, Haas, do you have a question, comment, or any for Chris or anyone else?
Yes, actually, I have a question from Chris. First of all, thanks for this opportunity to ask my question. I'm a real estate agent in Kentucky. I've done some live stream on Instagram, but I'm going to start my YouTube channel. So my question is that a good idea to have like 5-6 videos ready before I actually start my channel? Then I will make sure I have at least 4 or 5 weeks videos to post it in. That's the first question. And second question, what software do you recommend for editing videos?
Thank you. Good questions for sure. The software one's easy. Use what you have. Like if you only have iMovie or something like that, you might want to invest in do a program that's a little bit more robust. I can't really speak on a lot of like the free ones that are out there. I use Final Cut Pro. A lot of people use Premiere because they're fancy, and I don't know. I just don't have all that much time. So Final Cut Pro is fast and easy for me. I also use one on my phone for all of my like short form content if I'm just kind of on the fly and I want to post something up. And the program I use on my iPhone is called KineMaster. It starts with a K, K-I-N-E Master. And that's a paid app. I think it's like $20. I don't know. It's just nice because you can move around layers and all that stuff. And there's a lot of, like YouTube videos that teach you about that. So those are the 2 things that I use. And then having a few videos before you launch the channel. I think this is it's a debatable thing for sure. I'm just going to say this, like if you post out a bunch of videos, you've never done videos before, and you're going to try to like make a big splash and build this thing up and like hit the scene hard and all that, then I don't think that you should do a bunch of videos. I think you should just kind of document your journey as you go, Gary Vee style, just like, don't worry about being good, just worry about posting and being consistent above that. If you've got some past experience, like for where like some of the things that I want to do right now. I don't want to just come out with one new channel, one new video on my channel when I know that I can bank up, 5, 6 awesome interviews, chop those into nice little, like the highlight moments, like style, like Joe Rogan clips, and then bank all those things up and post them just because I know how to edit. I know how to keep the videos entertaining and all of that stuff. The problem with trying to put a bunch of them out right off the bat, if you don't have that experience, is that you're going to learn a lot and make little tiny adjustments as you go. It's like a Daryl Eves thing. He talks about YouTube a lot. He just says small little tweaks. So you're not going to be able to implement those small tweaks until video 8 if you put out 7 videos right off the bat, because you're not going to learn those lessons along the way. Whereas it's like a nice steady curve of little tiny changes throughout those 7 videos. If you're like, oh, I did this too long. Oh man, I should have corrected that. You might not know those things until you've already put out, a few different videos and learned from each different lesson. I think we say a lot of times, Roberto Blake always says that to make 100 crappy videos. That's like his big advice for everybody. And it's so smart because you learn so much through posting 100 different times what you can do better on the next video. So each video, just make it a tiny little bit better. And by the time you've done 100, like, man, you've learned a ton. You've implemented a ton. But if you're just saying like, I want to just bank up 7 or 8 of these things and put them out there, it's kind of like, well, if the first one's good, then, sweet. You are probably going to do well. The fact that you did so many of them and now you've got things for people to kind of binge and dive back into and look at. But if it's not good, then like you just wasted all of the little tweaks that you could have made on those other things throughout like a consistent 8-week period of time to just get it right and post them all and just make them a little bit better and stay consistent. The consistency part of that and having things banked up is like, it's like peace. You want to have peace while you do this. You don't want to be frantic and be like, oh crap, I haven't posted a video this week. I have to film one really quick. And then just, I don't know, have all of that drama behind it. It's not a fun place to be. So again, all my answers are long. I hope that helped.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, and I completely agree with Chris on there as far as tweaking and learning as you grow. But also, I do believe when you're starting out, Haas, I mean, I truly believe that whatever schedule you're going to that works for you, whether that's 1, 2, or 3 videos a week, and let's just say 2 videos for easy math. I do believe it's in your best interest to film at least 6 to 8 videos, so that you have 2, 3, 4 weeks of content ready to go on YouTube. And the thing is if you're just starting out, you're probably not going to get a lot of views. It's not going to go viral overnight. And so, still, I think just having that scheduled, so that allows you to start working on your next few videos. And now as those videos publish, if they publish 2 per week, you'll start to see those trends. Now that can affect how you start filming over the next month, but it also gives you breathing room, because we know in the world of real estate, things happen, right? Work happens, life happens, real estate happens, family happens, health happens. And if we get thrown off track for a week or 2, then, we have a good buffer there and we're scheduled out on content. And so therefore, for me, it's the consistency part that I think is really critical in the beginning. And you're going to start picking up more and more and seeing what really works out, and then adjusting your schedule. And as you get more fluid, you don't have to stay so scheduled out, but also you start to adjust, which is a point where I'm at now, to where I'm typically filming week by week, but that's because I'm the views and the engagement on every video right now that we put out is changing so much. And so I'm learning from every individual video as it goes out, but it's taken me a year to get to that point. So now that's adjusting my filming schedule and content creation, because I'm watching everything and judging it as it happens. But in the beginning, there's not going to be likely there's not going to be a lot of views, a lot of engagement. And so to me, it's better to just stay on that consistency. So I was going to go back to Justin. Does that help you out, Haas? I think we're good. And then
Yes,
James.
that was great. Thank you.
Okay, cool. James, you want to throw in on that?
Yeah, I was just going to add, Levi, what you were saying. It's a really important point about those first 8 videos that you have in the bag right now. They're not going to give you as much data as would be ideal, simply for the fact that, as Levi was saying, the views aren't going to be there. Again, some people, absolute unicorn cases, they fly right off the bat. But in most cases, it's always a slow start, and it's a case of pushing through and keeping consistent. And you don't really have that data to work from to make those informed decisions about what you should tweak. So with that in mind, I would say get those videos out, but also reflect on your process in terms of making videos. So I don't know how long it took you to put those 8 videos together, but looking forwards, I'd think about what would it look like if you took all the barriers away that provide any friction to you making more content and making content quickly. Because ultimately, the only way you're going to get that data is by putting more videos out on a consistent, regular schedule. I mean, Levi mentioned 2 a week. 2 a week's great. If you can do 3 a week, 3 a week. But basically, you're building a body of work. Because over time, although any one of those videos won't definitely get lots of views, one of them might, but as a body of work, you're going to get more data from simply more hooks in the water, to think about kind of fishing analogy. Then once you've got that data, then you can make those informed decisions. So think about, how can you make this easy for yourself? What would it look like if it were easy? That Tim Ferriss quote, and then just start pumping it out one way or another. It doesn't need to be a masterpiece anytime. It's all about really sending it one way or another.
And one last thing to add on that, absolutely do not publish all 7 videos in one day. So don't think you're starting your channel with 7 videos. Oh, I'm going to publish all these at one time. If you have 5 or 6 videos, it's better to pick your publishing schedule, which is, 2 videos a week, then just schedule them out. 2 videos this week, 2 videos next week. And again, people get worried about, well, if they find the first video, I'm not going to have any other videos to watch, or I'll have no history. Well, again, that first video is likely not going to go viral. And so even the people that view it, you'll get a couple of subscribers, but everything is a compound effect anyways. And, it's better to just stay consistent. I actually did that experiment once. I think James and Chris advised me not to do it, but I thought, let me try it. And I did it with 3 videos. And so absolutely killed 2 videos. One of them did okay, but the other 2, yeah, definitely killed them off quickly. So learned my lesson there, but an experiment I wanted to try, but I wouldn't recommend that. So anyways, let's jump over to, well, Justin. I guess he's off the phone. Justin, I know we usually hard stop. Chris let me know he's good on time right now, so I do want to get through everybody's questions, and then we'll wrap up this room. So we'll go to Justin, Matt, and then Hamid. And Justin, did you have any questions, comments, or anything for Chris in particular, or just hanging out? How you
Yeah,
doing?
I'm just hanging out. I saw my people, and I was on the Discord with Chris in the back. I think we're the only 2 people active on there, so came to support the people. No questions. I think what he said, it really gave me a lot of confidence. I'll make that commentary where, just showing up and being in it for the long game is everything. Like, I am committed to this year. I'm really trying to grow my personal channel, but I know the only way I'm going to do that is by pressing record and really understanding who my audience is. Question, I guess I'll table this and you guys can round table it for, say, podcast guests, right? As much as I'd love to just bring on people that I think are interesting and I think are cool and I want to talk to for a YouTube channel, I mean, I guess I know the answer, but I should be thinking about who my guests want to see, not who I want to see, correct?
I think another way to look at that is whether, I mean, your viewers might not have any clue that guest exists, right? So it's like, what does that guest know that is specifically suited to help your avatar, like, viewer, the person that is watching your stuff anyway, that you want to bring them that value. Like, I'd say in the car world, a lot of my guides, which I'm not into the stuff that they're into. I'm not even a car guy. It's so weird. But they might really want to hear from some particular race car driver or I don't know, just somebody who's big in that scene, right? but there might be zero crossover for me there. And the thing that they want to see from them is like, oh, they're just cool, or they're just funny, or they're hot, or they're whatever. And I'm like, I'm trying to teach these guys something that I think will help them versus them just saying, oh, well, we just want more of this and more of that. Show us more cool, more cool. But I'm like, are they the one that's teaching, or am I? Not that means that you can't give your viewers what they want, because that's a huge part of YouTube. A lot of creators actually have the mindset of like 2 for them, 1 for me, right? Where it's like, give them what they want, and then I'm going to give them what I want them to have, and kind of like work a system like that. And that, I think that's cool that a lot of different people can. It definitely depends on the niche for sure. But I think the main issue with podcast stuff, if we're talking about YouTube, is I would just say go look at what the future is doing. Chris Do, his team is chopping up lots and lots of content right now that's basically podcast content, but it's not being packaged that way at all. It's just really good content with lots of text, and it's just talking, but they do a lot of visual changes, and it's essentially just a little section of a podcast, and they're really dressing it up awesome. Almost nobody does that. Literally almost everybody fails at making podcasts turn into good, solid video content. And so I would just encourage everybody to go check out the future, but curious what anybody else thinks on the subject.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. Right? What do you think, Justin? Sounded like some pretty good advice.
It's funny. I was watching all the future stuff as I was putting together my daughter's toys over Christmas, and really gave me a couple breakthroughs. Phenomenal advice. Thanks, Chris.
You know what's funny is that I love that, give them what they want 2 times and, give me what I want 1 time. But it's funny is that I'm always creating content on the channel for the viewer. I'm always, again, analyzing every video and the engagement and the views, just in thinking, okay, what if I were in their shoes, what would I want to see next? One of the videos that I decided to make that I thought, oh, I want to make this video. And this is whenever the channel is very established. And I thought, this is going to be a hit. This could be, it definitely reaches a much wider audience, because it's not necessarily, it's focused on real estate, but not necessarily Dallas real estate. And it's one of my worst performing videos. It still hasn't even broken 1,000 views yet. And so it was just funny to me how I was like, wow, just how sometimes even still I got caught up in my own head and thought, oh man, this is going to be great because this is something that I want to do, but it didn't necessarily serve the core audience as a whole. And I don't know, the video kind of paid the price on that, but interesting to see that. But anyways, let's jump over to Hamid to wrap this up. And hey, Hamid, how you doing, buddy, man? Good to see you.
Hey, brother. Very good. How are you? Happy New Year, everybody. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everybody. Don, Brandon, and James. I'm very happy to be here. Sometime I'm missing this room. I will make sure to put this in my schedule. There's a lot to learn from this room. I don't. Maybe you guys talked about this, but I'm very early in my video shooting and everything else with the tools and the cameras that I've just got. I just want to know what kind of editing software you guys are using. A friend of mine told me Adobe Premiere is the one he's using, but I just want to know what editing software you guys are using.
Yeah, I talked about it a second ago, but really quick, it's easy. The ones that I use are Final Cut Pro. It's for the Mac. If you don't have a Mac, there's a couple different programs. There's DaVinci Resolve. There's Premiere. I would just say, Hamid, if you're just starting, aim at something that you can get some easy wins at. And a lot of times, I know with me, I go to do one thing and then I realize, oh, now I have to do 25 other things so that I can accomplish that one thing. Don't do that. That's what a lot of times happens if you dive like right into the deep end on something like Premiere or something. Not saying you shouldn't ever use Premiere. I'm just saying it's hard. It's not an easy thing, not for me at least. So anything that you can just make quick little chops, little edits in the timeline of the video, and then have this export. You send off this video and it actually doesn't have all the fluff and the mess ups and all that stuff in there. Like that's what you want. Just this, whatever the fastest path to get to that is. You can download things on your phone. The other one that I mentioned before is KineMaster. It's KINE Master. So you can check those out. But I would say this too, is something I didn't mention for everybody, is that if you're going to be thinking about this, like you want it to come across as good as it can be, like the biggest thing that you can do, especially if you're going to use your phone, is just have a good mic. Man, that makes such a huge difference. I'm looking at this little mic that I have. It's called a Video Mic Me from Rode Microphones. And it's just this thing, I just slap it in the bottom of my phone. I start recording and my audio is on point. And it's just stuff that I'm making. Like, I don't care if it's an Instagram story. My audio is damn good because of this cute little like $80 mic or whatever. There's lots of different things that you can do. You can, even just your headphones in an iPhone, the ones that just, have a wire and they have that little volume button right there on the right side. Like that thing's a mic and it will actually pick up better audio than if you're just trying to go straight out of the phone or straight out of a camera or anything like that. But everybody talks about lighting and they say lighting, get that right. If you're walking around outside, that's not going to be an issue, but your mic is going to suck outside. So I would just say if you're going to invest into anything, don't invest into like some amazing editing computer and all the best software when you've never even used it. Just use something so that you could chop up the video that you have. But focus, if you want to make one improvement right off the bat to make your stuff better and stand out, make sure that your audio is on point. That would just be the biggest advice that I have.
Thank you very much, Chris. Really appreciate that. What was the name of the mic that you said?
It's called a Video Mic Me. And you could just look at Video Mic as one word. And then Me it's basically just a little, I think they have different versions of it depending on what kind of phone you have. Mine's for an iPhone. And I don't know, it just plugs right in the lightning port on the bottom of the phone and has just super, like I'm so impressed by this silly little mic. I've spent a lot of money on microphones, but not this one. This was just a kind of cheap, quick and easy thing so that I could produce more little short, fast videos, things for stories and stuff like that. And it has performed super, super well. Definitely a good recommendation for sure.
I appreciate that, brother.
Awesome. Justin, James, you guys want to chime in on that recommendation real quick?
Yeah, I'm about 6 years deep into working with Premiere Pro. If I could start again, though, I would go down the Final Cut route, especially given, obviously, not obviously, but given I'm on a Mac. I think that Premiere is a little bit more demanding on the system, and it's so nuanced. I think, as with everything, Apple Final Cut, I think, is just that little bit more better user experience.
I'm a caveman with my edits. I'm very kind of cut and dry, and I have an editor that does a lot of my stuff for me. I would say same thing as James. I mean, I use Premiere, but I don't really utilize it to its maximum capacity. I use Premiere, and then on my phone, I actually use the GoPro Quick app, which, can be a complicated relationship sometimes, but for speed and quickness, I like how I can chop up and trim things very, very quickly. What I would say is commit to one and just get really good at that. Like I spent a lot of time on YouTube. Anytime I needed to figure out like how to do a jump cut or how to do a speed ramp or whatever, I would sit down and I'd hammer it out. And now I have that in my toolbox. And I do find, regardless of if you're doing mobile editing or on desktop, the more you use something, the faster you become at it. And getting in deep, like James was just talking about, going and switching to an entirely new system. The only reason we push back against it is I'm like, oh no, now I have to learn every keyboard shortcut, like where everything is. Like there is a sunk cost when it comes to software. So I wouldn't overthink it too much. I would pick, one for desktop and one for mobile and then stick with it.
All right. And I use, her name is Chrissy, and she does that for me. So that's something I've hired out from the beginning. And it's funny, we were on a call this morning with our real estate coach. He gave us this acronym as far as a real estate agent's most important task, and he used the word plan, which was prospect, leads, appointments, and negotiating contracts. And I was like, prospect, I was like, can we change that to produce content? And he was like, absolutely. So that's where I feel like as a real estate agent, our time is best served producing content, generating the leads that come from that produced content, setting those appointments, and then negotiating contracts. So for me, I would just recommend, if you can work in editing into your budget, I think that's very worth it. And the great thing about it is it's likely a fixed budget. So it's an expense that is going to cost you the same amount each month versus marketing, which could vary depending on what you're doing, or other things that can vary based on what you're doing that month. And so it would be something to plan for. And for me personally, I like the saying by Gary Vee, which says you're not lazy, you're just not interested in what you're doing. So, I never really had an interest in editing videos, and therefore I knew it was going to be a struggle. I probably would have quit after the first video. It would take me 10 times longer than it would take a professional. And at the same time, you got to, again, evaluate where's the best use of your time. So I wouldn't, I wouldn't discourage anybody from doing anything. You should always do what you want to do. If you want to learn editing, I say go for it. Get the best software is the software that you will use or the most comfortable with. At the same time, I also encourage trying to work in some sort of budget if it becomes a struggle, or if that's what leads you to not wanting to produce content. So if it becomes a thorn in your side, that would be something I would consider, because to me, producing the content is so important that I would do whatever it takes to make sure I can continue to do that. And I remove those obstacles to help me continue in that journey. So does that answer your question to me? Does that make you complete?
It does, brother. Really appreciate that. Thank you very much, James, and everybody who tuned in.
All right, great, guys. All right, we ran a little bit over, but we answered all the questions. Chris, thank you so much again for being our guest speaker today. Really appreciate you, man. James, great to see you again. Justin, as always, my brother, thanks for jumping in and helping out. My man, Don and Brandon, you guys, my boys. All right, Dania, good to see you again. Jump back in here. So we're just wrapping everything up. So with that, we'll close out this room, guys. Thank you so much. We'll be back same bat time, same bat channel.
Thanks for having me, man. And I want to leave one last little nugget for everybody in the room. If you're going to try to find somebody to do editing for you, I really, really, really recommend a killer hack for this that nobody ever thinks to do. Look in your local area, post on your local Facebook, say that you're looking for somebody who is already doing YouTube, and talk with them. If you can take them from just, making a few bucks by doing what they're already trying to do, what they've already invested their time and their money buying gear and different stuff like that, and you tell them that there's an opportunity for you to pay them to get with you locally and literally be in person and be able to start working together, even if they're just editing footage that you shoot on your phone, that relationship is, they're already invested. They want to win. They want to get, they want to do that and get better at it without you. So the fact that then they're getting money from you to edit your stuff, that's going to open doors for them that are huge. And they're going to be a lot more motivated to get better and do a good job for you than somebody who's, I don't know, some fancy cinematographer that's used to getting paid to go, make films or something like that. That's not the right match. So you can find people that can do editing for you, but if you look in your local area, somebody who's already doing YouTube, especially if they have a little bit of traction, 1, 2, 3,000 subscribers, something like that, those people will be pumped. You could literally be changing their life, paying them a couple $100, $250, $300 a week. They would be over the moon excited, and they'll kick ass for you. So that's my last little nugget. I'm done.
Well, that was a great nugget, and that just reminded me. I remember looking into internships, guys, if you're close to a local college or something like that as well, normally I think there's only really usually one requirement for internships, is that you actually have to have a physical office to where that person can go to and or report to. And so if you have, maybe talk to your local, if you have a local college and there's a film class or film editing class, or which I'm sure there is, and see if there's opportunities for internships, to where another great way to possibly find somebody for free or at very low wages as well, that's local, invested, wanting to learn, work with them on that way too, as long as you have a physical office. I don't know, but you could check that local college. They usually have that on the website, that information about internships. So that could be an opportunity as well. But yeah, great point, Chris. All right.
All right, you guys. I hope everyone has a good day. Appreciate you.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you guys next week. Thank you for joining us on today's podcast. If you're interested in partnering with us to access our YouTube course and coaching all for free, schedule a call at 5starstrategycall.com.